Hello, everyone. Welcome to Awesome Walkers, the live studio session, and
Hello everyone.
excited.
Well,
Okay, there was some testing that we had, and there is some lag. So we're going live on Facebook and YouTube, hopefully. Welcome again, and I'm excited, really, about restarting Awesome Walkers once again after a really long time. It's been almost a year that I've not had Awesome Walkers, and today, a dear friend, someone who I've known for many, many years, is joining me on this new journey that I'm going to start off online. I've known Saira since 2014, I believe, 2015 or so, and the way that we met and the way that we started off was always with strong, deep conversations. It was just a card lift that I had with her where she had to drop me off. We just met at one of the meetings and she said, I'll drop you home. And that lift turned into a friendship, and that friendship has grown into a client relationship between the two of us. And we've just grown together. We have seen each other grow tremendously over the years. And I really admire the way that she has rebooted her life from scratch and uprooted herself. So there's so much that is going to happen in this conversation over here, and I'm really excited to not spill the beans on her and her story, but I'm going to bring in on Sarah, who is an artist, who is a poet, who is a writer, who is. I grew up in Qatar, and when I was growing up in Qatar, one of the things that I used to look forward to every week was a magazine called Young Times, and never knew that I would meet someone who used to be a journalist for Young Times even when she was a kid. And she's bundle of energy and a bundle of sweetness and bundle of so many things. And I'd like to introduce you to my dear friend and an amazing artist. Let's bring her on, Saira Ranj. Hello.
Hello.
How are
What a
you?
warm start to a conversation.
Yes. Hi, you are a warm person, so you deserve a warm introduction. Do
Thank
you remember
you.
the first time we met? Do you remember the card ride that you gave, that lift?
Do I remember? Extremely memorable. I love how I gave you a city tour of the whole of Dubai to get you to the place that you needed to go. I realized then that multitasking was not something I was very good at, having conversations while taking you around.
Yes.
So it
Did
was
you switch
fun.
on the GPS, or just because you thought you had GPS or GPS Samir in the car, you didn't need a GPS? What was it?
There you go. It was so nice. It was the
Yes.
first time I had met you, right? And you just
Yes.
it was candid. I mean, you just said, here are my car keys and you drive. And I was like, okay, that was different. And I just took full advantage of that actually.
And you have reinvented yourself. So tell me
Yes.
about. So let's begin with your journey of, putting a context of where you came from. And I mean, I know you grew up in Dubai and all that stuff. So let's put a context to your journey before we
Okay.
dive deeper for the audience.
Okay, so basically, how I basically introduce myself as a third culture kid. Parents are of Indian origin, but completely born and brought up in Dubai. And we have 3 generations in Dubai, so even my kids are there, born and brought up there. So, and it's been 2 years now, actually more than 2 years, 3 years now that I've moved to Bahrain, which has been my first move in life to another place. And keeping in the same terrain, it's been great. So, yeah, so that's the background. And then I've always been artistic. However, as life demands it, I've had to go into various different areas before finally coming whole circle, kind of like you. So we have that in common. So
Yes,
yeah,
we do.
started quite young in the corporate field in the airline industry.
Okay.
Yeah. So started at the time in the 90s. Basically, they used to have these student programs where you finish your schooling and then you join your degree. And when you're doing your degree, you had all these programs in the Emirates airline division where they would take on youngsters. And I was one of them. We were about 66 candidates that were introduced, and then 12 people were finalized in my batch. And I was one of those 12. And that's how my foray into the airline industry happened.
How did you make the first choice? Of was it the challenge of attending an interview and tackling it, and for the spirit of that you joined the airline industry, or was it that you were really passionate about that particular industry and job? How do you make that initial choice of your career at a young age?
Okay, I'll be very, very honest. At that point in time, I was fed up of studying and studying and studying, and I was not doing what I wanted to study. I wanted to do fine arts. Yeah, I wanted to travel, and that's what I wanted to do. However, I was doing a commerce degree in Dubai, and that was definitely not something that I was enjoying. So when the opportunity for, I went in for an IATA test. Basically, you learn the course and then you go ahead and do a test. And after that, when I got the opportunity of an interview in Emirates, I just grabbed it by both the horns, because it was a question of traveling around the world and enjoying life and getting financially independent as well. So I was looking forward to the adult phase of my life rather than the student and the child phase. So that's how I entered, by chance and circumstances, I would say.
And why did you not go into fine arts? What stopped you from choosing?
Okay, what basically stopped me is we're a very close knit family, just dad, mom, and my brother and me. And we've always been in Dubai. The family's been together throughout. So when it came to a question of higher studies, that was very clear. If you want to leave Dubai, everybody wraps up and we go back home. We don't live separately. So you decide. And I guess the fact that I was not really willing to let go of Dubai sort of weighed higher than the fact that I would go and do, it's you're young, you're scared, you're wondering, it's a whole new terrain. India is just so different. And so I didn't take that leap of faith. And also, it has to be mentioned that studying fine arts was completely me and my dad. He would be very supportive, but my mom was like, seriously, let's get into more commercial things, get a job, go out there, be more. So that whole perspective changed. And I have battled it my whole life, even in school. Academics always won over your extracurricular, which is art and things like that. So I was like, one more thing. So it just went with the flow, even though I didn't want to. That's how I ended up taking that choice.
If you had to go back to your younger self and say something, what would you say now?
Oh my God, I would have said 100% to take that step forward. Don't get scared of the fears that you did have at that age. Be bold enough. Like, I think once by the mid-20s, I had realized anything and everything goes. Take those bold risks, move forward. That's all that matters. I think I made up. Sorry?
But that would mean uprooting your family and moving to India.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's a question of you will lose out in one way or the other. So what do you really want to lose out? So what is it that you really, really want? You got to zoom into that stuff. And there's always, life is not permanent. You can always make a detour, change things. So we place too much importance on certain areas of our life, and that holds us back. And it's not something that I would recommend to anybody.
At what age did you really come to the realization of this fact that, it's about what we really, really want and not looking at the external factors? And
okay, I'll give you a figure.
Knowing it 100%. Knowing it is one thing, but living it is different, right? So when did you first know it, and then when did you start living it?
Okay, I have always known my path in life. I've always known what I'm meant to do. Always, like even as a child. The reason I say that with so much conviction is because um, um, I never felt part of the mainstream. I never felt part of this academic route that most CBSE curriculum Indian students manage. I went to Indian high school, which is very academic based, and I always felt like this black sheep. Okay, but the reason the how I managed to survive that field is only because of my writing and my art. If I did not have these two things to look into, I don't know if I would have existed because it was very traumatic. It was very, very traumatic. Not a lot of people know this about me, but I have dyscalculia. I have a serious issue with math. As an adult, it's so much lesser, but as a child, I really struggled. But there was no diagnosis. You hear about dyslexia and stuff like that, and people know about it, but dyscalculia is hardly heard, and it's the way your brain is wired. So I struggled, and
You
the
struggle
most
with math.
important. Sorry.
What is it called again?
Yeah, it's a learning impediment when it comes to math. It's a learning disability.
I might have it. I don't even know it.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I didn't know for years. I knew as an adult that this is what I went through. And it was just, I remember this cat conversation I had as an adult once in the house. My brother looked at me and said, "You had something wrong with you, no, as a kid?" I was like, "What? What was wrong with me?" And then I came to know, then I did a little bit more research, and I actually found out that I have dyscalculia. And that is why I grappled with math so much. And the whole focus is not on your strengths. Your strengths, you score 85, 95 in, not 95, 92 on 100 in English. Yeah, good, great. But what about your math? Everybody focuses on your weaknesses and they try to build that up. And my whole concept of life is the other way around. I think just build your strengths. Weaknesses can stay. They can slightly improve and you try to manage through life, but build your strengths. So yeah, I think I lost your initial question.
How do you? What would you recommend to children, especially, or to parents right now? When you look back at life, and sometimes what I've observed is, as you're growing up, your voice is stifled. Right? You have parents who have been giving advices and telling you everything to do, and suddenly, as a child, when they start speaking, parents are like, "Since when did you become smarter than us?"
Absolutely.
So, what would you share from your experience to parents or to children in this context where they have to take the greatest decision of their life?
Okay.
And career is just one aspect because it spills over in other areas also, right? In how you take
Correct.
decisions, how you lead life, how you.
Yes. See, my very honest opinion is children are little people. They are little people on their own. They are not an extension of somebody, or this child, you cannot, all I can say is that the person's experience and wisdom has not reached that level, but they have independent thinking, they have their own little world, and you've got to give them that credit. What parents don't realize is a lot of people, you get so attached to the love aspect of it that you refuse to see them as individuals in their own right, and that's where parents go so wrong. I can understand it. It's difficult to sort of distance that at times. You think your 12-year-old boy is such a small little boy, but you have no idea. There are so many things. If you were to peek into his brain, there are things that may shock you. But it's there and it exists and it needs to be embraced more than anything else. 12-year-old boy, girl, whatever it is. Gender is not the specific thing here. What I'm talking about is the person. As a parent, you cannot believe that the child has reached certain levels of thinking. And in our culture, at least to a large extent, you have to play the part of the child. So when you play the part, you're automatically being someone else. You're not being true. So yes, it's all about communication, openness, but it's on both sides, especially the parent. The onus is on the parent, and parent has to distance themselves from that "this is my little baby" concept to accepting the person, and that helps.
That brings me to my next question, because I know you live and walk your talk, and you're raising two amazing daughters. Tell me about tell us about your relationship with your daughters and how you have let them be.
Okay. For the longest time, I don't know, till 2010, 11, I used to not talk about children in the forefront. See, we come from an era where there's a lot of the masculine side of yourself is out there in the corporate field. You don't, I mean, I personally would never bring in the emotional aspects, my feminine self to the table. Because to be taken seriously, especially during that era, it is very important to keep it neutral. The man doesn't talk about his child, the breakfast the child had, or he or she is unwell, blah, blah, blah. And you follow the same thing. It just makes it easier, okay? Over the years, of course, things have changed. Today, everybody embraces vulnerability. Today, everybody's able to bring that to the table. It's different. But in that era, late 90s and early 2000s, definitely not. So I never talked about my kids for the longest time. Now, 2010, 11 is the time that I actually started bringing them onto the social platforms or talking about them. We've had a fantastic relationship, and we still continue to do so. So the thing is, because I was very close to my parents, but the communication aspect, like my dad would know there are things happening in my life, but I couldn't talk to him about it. Okay. And it would have been so much easier if I could talk to him about it. He would know that it's happening, but he couldn't talk to me about it. So there's this gap in between the two of us, despite all of the love and care and nurturing and all of that. So that element is what I wanted to plug in when it comes to my children. So I had to make very, very clear to them that they could approach me with anything. But see, Samir, life does its own googly. Because I was so open with anything and they could talk to me about anything, my girls are very tight and they would be like, yeah, okay, I know, but I'll come to you when I need to, So, but on the whole, I'd say we have a very open relationship and we right now run something together. And yeah, we run something
Tell us
together.
about
And yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us about your venture that you're doing and more about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, art and words have always been part of my life. And I have never known, I mean, I can write and I can paint. But for the longest time, I did not know how to convert that to a commercial venture whereby I can actually sell this as a skill and bring value to other people's lives as well as mine in all terms. One of the things that made me very, very happy is when you see the twinkle in the other person's eye, and you know that this person has finally understood this concept, and you can see that they are able to change something, and the value you bring. So that made me feel so much better than selling travel packages. Yes, they would go off to another destination, come back and report to you about the wonderful adventures they had. But this was more solemn, it was more sacred to me. Okay, so the difference between corporate versus what I do now. And so yeah, created happened it's been my third business venture. And this has particularly happened in Bahrain. So earlier, we had this thing happening between the three friends in Dubai. It was called Garv, and we did a lot of similar things at the same time, soft skills training, etc. And when I started creating, it was on the same idea. But just look at it. We had our first major training. We trained over 200 people in soft skills, and then COVID happened. So everything changed in terms of events. But yeah, very organically, I brought all those things that I used to always do onto this platform, and my daughter, who had just finished her graduation, joined me. And here we are today, running writing workshops, running art workshops, running everything to do with art and entertainment.
Yeah.
And
And
it's just
your Zoom as well, right? And the way that you reinvented yourself when the pandemic hit.
yes, yes. It was, I would say, I struggled for a month when it came to art classes, especially oil paints, oil portraits on Zoom, because when you have a person right in front of you, it's very easy for you to pick up the brush and say, hey, this stroke here, this needs to go this way, and this needs to be changed. But when you're on Zoom, suddenly it was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And so I started experimenting, and I'm so grateful that I had clients who were, just so much a part of your fraternity, and they'd be patient, and I'd be patient, and we got it together. Within 2 months, I sort of, yes, we can crack this painting within 6 weeks if we need to. Done. 6 sessions rather.
Do you see the parallels of parenting and you migrating over Zoom? Do you see the parallels?
If you're talking in terms of patience, if you're talking in terms of creativity, in terms of being open to new things, trying it all out, yeah, I do. Are you looking at that particular aspect, or?
No, just this moment where you said, where if you saw a mistake, you would take up a brush and you would just do it. And that's what parents do, right? When you're close, when you're next to each other, you can help them.
Yes.
But the moment, right, you are far away, and you'll have to just let them do the things, let them do the corrections. You distance yourself from them.
Yes.
And that distancing is actually what helps a person grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I think that is so correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I said right in the beginning about, keeping it as their whole persons in themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just saw the parallel in the two different things that you mentioned. And just
I like the perspective.
And I like something else that you spoke about, which is, you enjoy what you do because of the twinkle that you see in other people's eyes. And I think we all should wake up every single day to see the twinkle in somebody else's eye because of the things that we do, right? And to make that choice in life.
Absolutely, Samir. And it just feels like at this moment, I just feel like I'm running out of time, because what I should have done a long, long time ago, I'm doing now. Okay. And I just feel like there's so much to be done. And it's so sad that, what does a corporate job give you when you think about it? Being 17 years in the corporate field, I can tell you very clearly what it gives you as far as my perspective. Now, it gives you a brand. Okay, a reliable brand. I'm part of Emirates, I'm part of Hertz, I'm part of KPMG, whatever it is. It gives you a brand value. So you are working for Infosys. Oh my gosh, he's working for Infosys, etc. It also gives you the safety and the luxury of a fixed salary, and a good whopping salary in most cases. So these two things are such safe parameters. But you become a slave to so many things. And unless you get out of that circle and look back, you cannot draw the parallels. You cannot understand what you're missing out on life. And when you have your own personal business, you can drive it to whatever way. And the income levels also, it's crazy, but it can really beat that system, which you don't realize.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we have another 6 minutes. We'll keep it at 30 minutes. This is the first time. We could go on. I know we could go on for hours and hours with our conversation.
True.
But I want to bring to the attention of something that you just now mentioned, where we become a slave in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
I know kids who grow up even to entrepreneurial parents, but they say, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to work for myself. I'd rather go to a 9 to 5 job, be settled, not have the hassle of, you know, experimenting, the pressures, because they've seen their parents sometimes do it, or they've seen the ups and downs of that, and they like a settled life. So,
Okay.
what I begin to realize is maybe working for yourself is not for everyone. Sometimes you can find joy even in the corporate world. It's just the more important aspect is
Yes.
finding yourself, right? Being connected to yourself. And
Brilliant. I love the analogy you bring here. It's so correct. I think self-awareness is number one. When you know yourself and what you're structured, how you're structured makes a world of a difference to the decisions you make. So if
yeah,
you're a square peg in a round hole, that's your life. That's horrid. But if you fit into that field, why not? I mean, there's nobody's saying that you've got to start out on your own or do your own thing, or it's just a question of what works for you. But if you're like beat every single day and you don't like it and you're dragging yourself, then why are you doing it? That's my whole concept when I mention that.
and when you just said uh, round peg in a square hole, or is it square peg
Square
in
peg in a round hole. Yeah,
either way?
yeah.
Uh, you can fit into both, right? A square
Hmm.
peg into a round hole you can fit in, but you'll have to become smaller.
Oh, I like that. Oh yeah,
You'll have to
yes,
become smaller than who you are,
yeah. Makes. Oh, that's deep.
right?
That's very deep. Yeah, it's correct. Oh, I know
uh,
very structured people who can't think beyond that. And
yeah.
it's a good thing because they're making their money, they're having their life, they're having their private side of the life, the family life, or whatever it is. They're going on, whatever it is, where their hobbies, they're managing themselves, and it's fine.
I want to come to the last, coming
Sure.
towards the last question over here because time. Uh,
Yeah.
you can't go to a child and say, go and be more self aware, right? You can't
Yeah.
impose, just like you said, come to me and talk to me. I'm available for you here. It doesn't
Right.
work like that also with parenting. You can't impose these things. It's you creating the environment. So how do you create the environment for others or yourself to be in a space of self awareness from your experience?
I think constant dialogue is very important, open communication, doing a lot of things together, letting your child know what is important, as in terms of what are our family values, what are the things that the three of us, we talk constantly on a daily basis before the pandemic or now, because you have to spend certain amount of time with each other, and whether it is doing chores together, whether it is spending time together, going for picnics together, or just having conversation across the table, it is very important for them to see that you can, one, talk about things, and second, how you reflect as a parent, how it's not about preaching. You can tell them big stories and give them advice. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's how they see what you're doing. I mean, we know, all of us know this stuff, but it has to come more in action. And I think at the end of the day, action always speaks louder, right?
True. And this is when you're talking about the parent child relationship or with anybody else, right? But how
Yes,
does
yes.
one increase their own self awareness where you're not
Okay,
communicating with anybody else, but you have to
okay.
improve your own self awareness?
I'm very big on journaling. Okay. A lot of people do not journal because, you try it 2, 3 times, you try it a few times and you think, I cringe looking at these notes. What am I doing? This is nonsense. But trust me, the magic happens only when you reflect back on it. Just a few days ago, I picked up my last year's diary and I looked at Feb of 2020, where I was, what I was doing, and how I was. And it's mind blowing the kind of changes that have happened in my life and how far I've come. And that realization does not kick in till you do those things. So when it comes to milestones as well as learning about yourself, how if you journal things, you can even find out if you are being taken for granted, if you are being disrespectful, if all these small facets of your personality emerge over time. And nobody needs to read your journal, it's just for you. So why are we stopping ourselves from pouring ourselves into a little book, a note, whatever it is, and then 1 year later you read it and you find yourself? That's how you are more aware.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to share or you could share from that Web 20 post that stands out for you?
Yeah, I would like to say that I have come very, very far from where I thought I'd be. When in Feb of 2020, I didn't know. In September 2019 is when I launched my company. In Feb of 2020, I was just exploring the different, how will I do this, run classes, is this what I want to do, etc., etc. Today, I have a complete brand with about 5 different aspects of my business. Today, I have fixed schedule of classes. Today, I am far more confident and independent on a lot of other levels as well, financially as well as others. So it's just in a question of 8 to 10 months, how life has changed. It's been fantastic. And I have always done this. Also, one of the things I have done is manifestings, where you just mention something in your journal and months later you look at it, you've already achieved it without trying so hard. So I think it's very important for you to do these things, and I would recommend it to anybody, child, adult, any gender.
What would you say to someone who says, I don't have a good language, or I don't write well, or I can't express myself in writing? What would they do?
Spellings don't matter, grammar doesn't matter, it's for yourself, nobody's judging you. You write, you read, you just note it down. That's all that matters. And even the most boring things, it's like doing that one push-up. Over the months, you find out that you suddenly can hold your wrist up properly. You're able to do that with more. But you got to do that one push-up on a daily basis. By the end of the month, you're able to do a lot more. So it's just like that. Nobody's judging you. And keep it to yourself. So you grow.
Beautiful. I could go on with talking with you, for hours and hours, and I know you know that. If someone wanted to follow you and your work, where would they do that?
Okay, at the moment we are on Insta at it's
Yeah.
creative.bh. That would be the best place to find us, and then we can take it further from there.
Okay. And any closing remarks that you... So while you were having this conversation today, did you have an insight, or did you touch upon something for yourself while having this conversation today?
I really enjoyed the fact that how you make yourself smaller. I love the way you put it, because it is so correct. I like that aspect very much. That was a new perspective on the same thing. Yeah. What else? I mean, as usual, I enjoy chatting with you, talking to you, and we've got to finish that painting, remember?
Yes.
Put you on the spot there.
Yes, I will. Yeah, that's.
No, but
I'm so happy that you're not next to me with that stick, just to say, whack me on it and...
No, I would never do that. You know that.
Yeah, it was a childhood trauma. I told you about. Teachers used to hate you actually, for not painting correctly, and it was crazy. You just stop loving art because of that sometimes.
This is so insane. I've heard this from so many people, and I never knew people did that. If they did that to me in school, that would have been the end of me, because at least that part was intact.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Samir.
Thank you so much.
As usual. Awesome.
I'm so glad that I restarted Awesome Workers with you online. And I look forward to growing this and seeing how we can together change the world, bring twinkle to people's eyes, and
Totally.
have meaningful conversations. I think that's you touched upon it also today in terms of journaling, where I believe journaling is your conversation with yourself. And
Yes. Yes.
when you're talking about parenting, it's again conversation with your children, which actually improves and enhances self-awareness. And I believe conversation is the bedrock or the foundation of everything, and how you do it impacts everything in our lives. So, and if we do it right and if we do it effectively, then it's transformative. So,
Absolutely. With you.
and I never knew that I loved conversation so much. I was thinking, how do I get on social media and do these things online? And I had all these. And I
Cringe,
just asked
cringe.
you, you said yes, and then it was like something like that, right?
Very
Anyway,
true. We are forever trying to get out of those comfort zones and get more and more comfortable with ourselves. So yeah, I agree. Happens to me too, and happens to all of us, I guess.
all right. So thank you so much, and till we meet again and finish the painting.
Thank you. Bye, Samir, and I had such a good time. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of the first episode of Awesome Workers Online. Looking forward to more sessions. If you have an interesting story, if you have insights from today's session, if you have learned something new, or if you have had some breakthrough insights, or if you think this conversation is meaningful to somebody in your life, then comment below or share or tag someone in this video so that they might listen and hear about Saira's story and how she has created her own journey and transformation. With that being said, till the next episode, I wish you a good day. See you and have an amazing week and an awesome life ahead. Bye bye.